Hi, I'm Jane. I'm a social worker and a yoga facilitator. And this morning I'm inspired to continue the conversation about boundaries. So, welcome to this present moment. Let's breathe. The reason I'm inspired to speak about boundaries is that each one of us is showing up here today with a unique blueprint from our past. Even siblings have a unique blueprint about what a boundary is. And so our responsibility as adults is to take increasing responsibility for how we navigate boundaries with ourselves and others. And again, when the blueprint comes to us with boundary violations, we have to do the work. So if you, for example, in addition to the first show, if you come to this moment experiencing neglect or abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, your boundaries are going to be such that you will be seeking your answer from others. This is likely. Or not seeking at all because you won't expect to get. And I have a deep belief system that each of us is born with a birthright to wellness, and that our answers must ultimately come from within. We have a right to seek to reach out to the other and speak our truth ultimately. So if you have a parent, a foster parent, an adoptive parent, if you were adopted, if you have grandparents that raised you, you ultimately, whatever primary relationship you're seeking balance, equanimity with, you have a right to say what you did was wrong, and you can't, their answer isn't going to be your truth. Your answer is your truth. So when we behave in the present moment as if somebody else has our answers, so that might be some type of an acting out, whether it be with, sexually acting out, we have to slow ourselves down long enough to say, is this where I'm going to get my answers? And if you feel an experience of how can I have my answers inside, I feel empty, then meet that with compassion. But the teaching around boundaries is that your answers are within. Work with a counselor toward finding them so that the seeking that you do in your life isn't from the other as the solution to your pain. The solution to your pain is within you. And then we are wired to connect. So this isn't to take away that. This is because of patterns in our lives. We are drawn to repeat mistakes. So for instance, if you have a parent that messaged to you over time, you're just not good enough, until you work out that as an introject and take that away from your living experience, and this isn't magic, we don't press buttons, but we work it out with hopefully a wonderful professional that can mirror us and find our light. We might find partners that mirror the hatred, if you will, from the parent. We can challenge patterns. Why? Because of neuroplasticity. So there's this teaching that we know if we see this red flag in somebody that we're trying to get our needs from, that is like, this person is like my mother, for instance, you might be like, okay, the answers aren't with him or her or them. The answers are here. And setting boundaries is about you, not them. We can't get them to do for us. We can't get anyone to do for us. We have to start here and ask for what we need. My friend, boundaries are complicated. There's no perfect spot to get it right, but there is the teaching that you can, with each individual person, work toward the light, work toward getting it right. We want to learn these boundaries so that we don't pass down to our children and our children's children these boundary violations. I'm going to give you another example. Because some boundary violations are subtle. Many of us in my generation were taught that you have to finish everything on your plate. And so you would have to sit at the dinner table until it was done. And that's a boundary violation. We thought of it as, you have to eat everything on your plate, and that's just the way it was. And so why is it a boundary violation? Well, ultimately we want to teach our kids to, we want to put just enough food on their plate so that they can honor their own hunger instead of telling them what they have to eat. So there's a gazillion ways that we get it wrong as parents. So now I'm going to take responsibility. I didn't get it all right as a parent. No one does. But ultimately, as I come into my truth and recognize where I was sort of acting out based on the boundary violations that I experienced in my life, I got to pivot and take a new path. And I'm still not getting it all right. Why? Because to err is to be human. However, and one boundary decision at a time, I'm getting it more toward the light. So I encourage you to speak to me on the channel. What are your questions? My goal is to shine a light on boundaries so that you recognize, oh, that's what's happening here. I can't rely on them to set a boundary. I have to set a boundary. So remember the teaching from the last show, self-soothing. What does your self-soothing look like? Work with your body, work with your breath, slow yourself down so that you can come into what we call parasympathetic, or the nervous system that says, here and now. Okay, so I'm hesitating on the okay because what if you're feeling pretty terrible? Well, ultimately, compassion to the terrible. Settle here and recognize that what was is no longer. That was there and then. This is here and now. And what are my answers going forward so that I have dignity in this body, mind, and spirit? Dignity of a boundary that says, I am okay. If you were told you weren't, that is about them and theirs. Let's take another breath through the nose. Using the body to feel the power of the spine, to feel the power of the breath, to feel the grace of the breath begins to bring us home. There's a saying I remember learning, I traveled the world to find myself, only to come home to find me. I don't know who said it. This is our home, navigating our boundaries toward finding increasing grace, increasing equanimity or balance. One breath at a time, one decision at a time. You are enough, my friend, so let's just raise the hands, thumb to sternum, elbows raised. Notice that when we do this, even this, let's push those hands together. We can feel balance in this moment with right and left hands, raised elbows, straight spine, bringing the breath into the belly, expand the belly. Long exhalation out through the mouth to increase parasympathetic or calm tone in the nervous system to be able to choose the next right thing to do for a healthy boundary. Namaste, my friends. Let's keep talking about boundaries as we need to, want to, and I wish you a day filled with navigating boundaries, increasingly healthy. See you again soon.